Hiya, my name is Amelia
Why
May.
be anything other than happy?
This is my wellness podcast called Through the Waves. The ocean has always inspired my life in more ways than one.
It should always be filled with love and passion and excitement.
I love viewing my emotions and experiences in life like waves move through the ocean.
I love you.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Through the Waves podcast. I originally recorded this episode 4 times now and did not like the way that they came out the past 4 times, so we are redoing this episode. And I originally wasn't going to take notes for this episode. I wanted it all to come from my heart, but then I realized that there's so many parts to this story that I needed to have notes and I needed to have everything organized so it wouldn't be a crazy mess when I actually talk to you guys and tell you about my wellness story. I originally wanted to do this because I think anyone who looks at me now can see that I've created habits and structure in my life, that my life has not always been like this. And the things that I do now are completely different and polar opposite than what I used to do back a couple years ago. I would say my wellness journey started, I'm going to start talking about it from the summer of 2018. I was going to do my childhood and I was going to do my high school time, but I decided that I wanted to make it the past couple years and just leading up to where I noticed that I needed to grow and change and love the most in my life, and that is the story I want to share with you guys. I've never talked about this on any of my social media platforms. This story is really vulnerable to me because it's really what has led me to where I am today and what I feel so called to do. And I want to share this story because I want to share the darkest and deepest places and some of the happiest moments of my life with you guys that has led me to where I am now. The first couple of times was really hard for me to explain without getting emotional, so I'm going to try to not get emotional in this episode, and I just want to sit down with you guys and talk really raw and really authentic and tell you guys about where my journey is taking me and the things I've gone through that has truly made me to who I am today. So my story, I also have my notes above you guys, so if I'm looking up, that's why. So my wellness story started, I would say, during the summer of 2018. I graduated high school in 2018. I'm originally from a small town in Delaware. Once I graduated, I immediately moved down to the beach to live with my sister and brother-in-law at their house and got a job. I'd worked my entire life. I'd had a job since I was 15 years old. So my parents had instilled in me as a kid that if I want extra spending money on weekends, I need to go out and bust my ass for it because they were not going to give it to me. I am so grateful, and I can say that I was very privileged to grow up with parents who encouraged me to work and also taught me the value of money. So I had 2 jobs during the summer of 2018. I was working at a clothing store in our home beach town, and I was also working as a hostess at a local restaurant. And all of my friends were still at home 30 minutes away, so I was able to focus on work and spend a lot of time with my brother-in-law and my sister and their dog Moose, who I love so much. I got a Snapchat one day from one of my friends, Anna, and she told me that she would love to set me up with one of her friends, and I was like, absolutely, sure, why not? So she put us in contact, and then I remember I was on vacation in Maine for a straight week. Him and I talked every single night, every single second of the day that we could, and I remember being so eager to meet him in person, and when I met him in person, I thought it was like love at first sight. I fell head over heels for this guy. I thought he was such a gentleman, treated me so right the first couple weeks, and then as time progressed, we actually started to learn more about each other and the way that we carry ourselves, and there were so many things that did not align with me that he carried traits of that I just continued to overlook the red flags and not think anything of it, when all I genuinely wanted was him to love me because I didn't have enough love in my heart or for myself. So I started noticing habits that he had. One's he would drink an entire case of beer every single night and then get verbally aggressive with me. I remember all of my friends telling me that all of my friends that knew him told me that he drank an absurd amount. And so we would go to social parties together, and we would be out and about. And he would be probably 12 beers in, and he would grab me and pull me aside and tell me that I was being an attention whore to anyone I was talking to. It could be women or men, and he just became extremely controlling over my life. And I just thought it was him when he was drunk, and when he was sober, he wasn't like that. So I allowed this man to treat me this way for months, and I noticed that I started to get verbally abusive to him too, because I was like, okay, this is love, and love is worth fighting for. Completely wrong. Love should come easy, and love should be filled with joy and excitement and happiness, and your partner wanting to love the best parts of you and your flaws. So I noticed that we just were not meant for each other. We were not made for each other. And then I went to college, and when I was at college, I felt like it would be easier to break up with him over the phone. So I did that instead of breaking up in person. So I left my small town in Delaware and moved all the way down to Boca Raton, Florida, which is where I went to school for the past 4 years. And college was crazy to me. It was like a culture shock. It was the first time that I'd ever been on my own. I was not used to the independency at all whatsoever, and I had a ball with it. I basically did whatever I wanted when I wanted to. Growing up at home, I had a home base, so I knew that every single day I'd go to school, and then after school I'd go to practice, and then after practice I'd have dinner with my family, do my night routine, and go to bed. It was not like that in school. I was not used to, in my hometown, every single person driving a luxury car. I was not used to girls walking around with designer head to toe. That's something that I had never experienced until coming to Florida. And I remember the first half of my freshman year feeling like I needed to keep up and compete and just make sure I had the nicest clothes and the newest shoes and the nicest bags, when all I cared about was everything on the surface, and I didn't care about things on the inside, which hurt me a lot in the long run. I did not prioritize school at all whatsoever. I remember getting emails from my dean saying that in order for me to continue to live on campus, I need to either go to school and turn in assignments or move off campus and get kicked out of school. At the time, I also was drinking like it was my job. I was going out every single night with my friends to bars, and I was drinking an obsessive amount. At the time, that's all I cared about was my social life, and I would go out with my friends, get absolutely plastered, not be kind to myself or kind to others when I was drunk. I would make really bad mistakes, and I just was not taking care of my soul, or actually the girl on the inside. And I would get home at 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I would sleep until 3 in the afternoon. So by the time I had woken up in the afternoon, I'd already skipped all of my classes. So I would just end up repeating the cycle and going out and over again. So because I was prioritizing my social life over my education, I remember looking at my grades and realizing, holy shit, I'm about to get kicked out of school. So what I did was I withdrew from all of my classes within one semester except for one, and I remained having one class, and I kept my grades up in that class, and I did the bare minimum. I ended the class with a D, but because I withdrew from all my classes, I could live on campus. The only reason I did that was so I wouldn't get kicked off campus and I could still hang out with my friends every single day. I developed really bad social anxiety my freshman year. I remember being so fearful of walking around campus by myself that it would hinder me from leaving my college dorm room. I would not go to the dining hall by myself, so there were a lot of meals that I ended up skipping because I was so afraid to be alone. I am a really extroverted person, but I became so dependent on the people that were around me that I would not want to be seen by myself. It would hinder me from nourishing my body with foods that I needed to eat every single day. So instead of having 3 meals a day, I would probably have 1.5 meals a day. Or I would DoorDash food, which was not healthy at all whatsoever. I also didn't have a kitchen in my dorm, so the only access to food I had was if I went out off campus in my car, if I DoorDashed, or if I ate at the dining hall. And Lynn's dining hall is ranked I think my freshman year was ranked third in the country, so there was no excuse for why I wasn't eating incredible food when I had the chance to. I spend so much time in the ocean in bikinis, and I want to make sure that my pieces are sustainable for our planet. Breezy Swim was founded on a love for the ocean and need for bikinis that fit. Made from the highest quality recycled fabrics, each piece is designed with body confidence in mind. A portion of all their sales is donated to cleaning and protecting our oceans. Use code WAVES20 for 20% off your first order at breezyswim.com. I remember being so afraid to walk around by myself at campus that anytime I left my dorm room, I put on a pair of sunglasses because I was afraid of what people would think of what I looked like without makeup, that I couldn't even show my face, and it breaks my heart so much because I was so insecure and so lonely inside. But on the outside, I projected so many insecurities to other people. I projected this awful attitude of thinking that the world owed me everything when I was not grounded. I was not loving to anyone, and I remember just being so sad and not having any gratitude in my life. I was so truly grateful during those moments, and I had nothing to appreciate. I had an education that I was lucky and blessed enough to have. I had a bed to sleep in every single night, and I had warm clothes on my body. I had incredible people in my lives, and I had a family at home that loved me more than anything. And I just remember finding the worst in every single day and only pointing out what I was missing in my life versus looking around and actually feeling gratitude and appreciation for what is right in front of me. I started a really bad addiction of Adderall when I was in my freshman year, towards the middle of it. I remember thinking, okay, it's time for me to buckle down at school. I'm going to actually need to get my schoolwork done and get my shit together. And I had taken Adderall one night with my friends and did practically 3 weeks worth of schoolwork in one night, and just thinking, okay, this is all I need to do. I will not turn in my schoolwork for weeks, and then I will take Adderall and stay up all night, stay up for like 36 hours and do all of my schoolwork and then submit it late for late points. And because I'd never taken Adderall before, my body did not know how to react to it. And Adderall it's a appetite depressant. So I remember going like days without eating food and thinking that that was normal. I just thought it was okay because I didn't have an appetite, to where I would look in the mirror and I'll literally look like skin and bones and think it was normal, and I kept saying to myself, instead of the freshman 15, I'm losing the freshman 15, which is not okay because when I was 18 years old, I was in a healthy, happy, incredible, happy body that I didn't appreciate at the time. And I'll never forget when I came home, I think it was around January, February, and I hugged my dad, and he pulled me aside and just looked me up and down, and I was like, what are you looking at? And he was like, where's my daughter? He was like, are you not eating food anymore? He was, what happened to your beautiful body? I saw the expression of sadness and frustration in my dad's face because of how lost he could see I was. I stopped doing Adderall, and I have never taken it since then. That was a really low moment for me, and it breaks my heart thinking of my dad's face when he pulled me aside to talk. After my freshman year, I went back home to spend the summer in my beach hometown, and it's very typical for everyone who is young and in college to get a beach house with their friends, and so that's what I had done. I had moved into a house with 8 roommates. We were right on the beach, or we were a block away from the beach. I remember coming into the house saying, okay, I know what hurt people the last time I started drinking and actually started binge drinking. I'm no longer going to do that again, and I need to figure out some sort of way to give love to myself. That way I'm not hurting those around me. But that went out the door as soon as the summer started. I had gotten back with my ex from the previous summer, and it was great for a couple weeks, and then shit hit the fan. Shit hit the fan. He not only became verbally abusive. He was also cheating on me, and he became extremely manipulative to who I was with, who I was talking to, my friends I was spending time with, going to the beach, showing skin in my bikinis. It got to a point where I just said enough is enough. I was at a family barbecue for my mom's birthday, and we had just gotten into a fight right before then. He was supposed to come to the barbecue with me. It was 4 p.m, and he was completely wasted, and I remember sending him a huge paragraph telling him, I love you, I can no longer do this with you anymore, I hope you get the help that you need one day. And he, I'll never forget, texted me back and said, if you ever tell me I need help, I will wrap my hands around your throat and strangle you till you can't breathe. I had never heard anything like that in my entire life, coming from somebody who was supposed to love me, who I loved with all my heart. And from that day, I blocked his number and I never spoke to him ever again. The house that I lived in, and it was not a good environment for where I should have been helping myself heal. So I started indulging in substances that did not serve me and only hurt me, and it got really bad to where one morning I remember waking up hungover, and I ended up doing a substance to sober me up. I remember looking in the mirror that day and literally not knowing who the girl looking back was. I could not recognize who I had become. And I just remembered looking at myself in the mirror and not being able to actually recognize me for me. And it was like looking at a complete stranger. I remember pledging to myself that from this day forward, I will literally only allow love into my life and to stop all substances and to only drink socially and to be the person that people wanted to spread love with, to spread laughter with. Be the woman that my niece would look up to one day and my parents would be proud of. And that's not how I felt. So I went back to school for my sophomore year in 2019. I moved into my first apartment with my best friend from college. I started creating healthier habits for myself. I started meal prepping. I started going on Pinterest and picking out meals that I wanted to make throughout the week. And I started going to the grocery store and getting an upper hand on my life and having control of my life again. But on the weekends, I still went out and drank liquor. I spent Christmas in Taiwan with my parents and my brother. I landed in the US to come back on New Year's Eve, and everybody was going out. And it was the first time that I had realized I didn't have FOMO about going out and missing a party. I had actually felt really good that I had spent an incredible family vacation with the people I love. I had the best time. I got to meet so many of my dad's relatives and family members that I'd never met before. And I came back from that trip completely sober. My parents aren't big drinkers, so we didn't drink alcohol, and we had incredible food and memories that would last a lifetime. And January 1st, I took a notes page and I wrote a letter to myself. Pause, because I want to go see if I can find that letter real quick. I found the letter I wrote to myself, and it was a really short one. I thought it was a lot longer, but it's really short, and I'll read it to you guys. It says, Dear Amelia, this year I hope I become independent and fully in love with myself and hopefully reach the potential I've always held back from. I hope that I stay true to the best version of myself. I love you, Amelia. Love, 2020 Amelia. Something that I've now continued for the past 3 years almost, where I write myself a letter before coming into the new year. So on this list it says, my future 2020 Amelia, she will be loving of herself and those around her. She will be independent. She will be self-loved. She will be fit. She will be confident. She will be happy. She will be a boss babe. She will be knowledgeable. She will not allow other opinions to let her doubt herself. She will follow her gut, and she will stay true to herself. That is basically the start of my journey. And from that day forward, I promised myself to learn every single day how to love myself in new ways and how to improve my self-confidence and how to improve my life. I wanted to start getting back into working out, and the only time that I'd ever been actually active in my life was growing up when I had a coach and I had a practice, and I was in sports constantly 24/7. And my best friend and I, Lily, we were sitting at her apartment, and she was like, oh my gosh, an ad just popped up for $3 cycling classes. Have you ever done cycling? And I was like, no, but I've always dreamed and wanted to go to SoulCycle, and there's not a SoulCycle around us. The closest one I think is like an hour away. So I was like, oh my gosh, let's go. And so we went the first day, and that ride completely changed my life. I started going to Zenergy every single day after that, and going multiple times a day, and using the $3 classes to be the leverage to what started my health and fitness journey that I love and preach today. I started noticing that when I would eat shitty food, I would feel shitty on the bike, or I would not feel energized to ride. And so I started nurturing my body with nourishing food. I remember the first green juice I'd ever made, and writing all the ingredients and looking on Google and watching YouTube videos of how to make healthy salads and healthy green juices and smoothies. And so I started that every single day, and then the pandemic happened. So during quarantine, the cycling studio that I was obsessed with ended up shutting down, and I started doing at-home workouts. I started doing Sammy Clark and Melissa Wood, and I fell in love with learning to move my body in the way it's supposed to, and to just move my body every single day, because it's truly a gift that I don't thank God enough for. That I have a healthy and young and active body is truly a blessing. So because every restaurant was closed, I had to learn how to make my own meals. So I actually fell in love with cooking and learning what was in food and how it strengthens me. And I started making fun recipes. I remember I made like a lobster roll one night for my brother and I, because he was quarantined down here with me. And I made tons of pasta, and I learned how to make pies and cakes and cookies, and it was actually so fun to learn how to cook for myself and learn what my body needs the most of and what it needs least of. And I started creating a routine for myself. I mean, I think we all kind of went down this path where during quarantine, it was fun the first couple weeks, not like working or going to school, and then it became really boring. And so I started structuring my life around a routine that I would fall in love with every single day. So I continued to do that, and I would, although I didn't have anywhere to go other than my couch, I would wake up at 6 o'clock and I would hit a workout, and then I would shower and I would do my skincare, and I fell in love with creating routines for myself to actually have a successful day and to become a positive and happy person. And we started being allowed back into restaurants and into hotels and bars is when my junior year rolled around. So at this point, I had really learned more of how to carry myself in a confident and sexy and powerful way, while also being kind to who I am and kind to my soul, and treating myself right and loving every inch of the best parts and the worst parts of me. I started manifesting what I wanted my future life to look like. I started meditating every morning, which is something that is so religious to my daily routines that I do not miss a meditation any day. Meditations are what keep me grounded and present throughout moments of my day where sometimes I'm not grounded and present and I just want to scream. Base of a lot of the things that I do daily are because and focused around my meditations every single morning. I started working out every single day. I started going to the gym that I currently now go to called One Fitness, and I was doing group exercises with my roommates and felt deeper in love with lifting weights. And that's something that I grew up doing because I was in sports so young that I loved being able to lift weights and test my body. So I started doing that, and I would still continue to go out, but I wouldn't drink past my limit. I would know when to stop drinking, and that's something that I was really proud of because I'd learned to limit temptation, which is something that I'd never been good at before. I'm gonna cut there because I feel like this episode has been so long. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode. I cannot wait to continue telling you guys my story and to what I'm doing now in my life, and I love you so much, and I'll catch you on my next episode. Bye!